A few years ago, there was a Pew survey trying to ascertain, to find out which jobs, which professions in America hold the most satisfaction and fulfillment for the people who do that specific type of work. And lo and behold, the people who scored highest on that survey were nurses, teachers, firefighters, social workers, therapists, and clergy. Not necessarily the people who have the highest income, like, for example, people who are high up in the oil industry. Why do nurses and teachers and social workers and firefighters score so high in terms of their work satisfaction? The answer is, of course, that such individuals belong to what we call the helping professions. Those who reach out to others and really make a difference in their lives. In short, those who feel that what they do for income is not just a source of income, but just as much as that, if not more, it is a calling, a vocation, a destiny. The third book of the Torah that we're starting this coming Shabbat, Be'ezrat Hashem, is called Vayikra, which means, and he called upon. And it starts with the words in the opening verse of the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, Vayikra Hashem el Moshe. And God called out to Moses. This is out of the ordinary. Usually, the Torah says, and God spoke to Moses, and God said to Moses. Here it says, and God called upon Moses. This comes to teach us that as the greatest rabbi of the 20th century, the late and righteous Rabbi Soloveitchik, taught us, there are two ways to look at life. We can look at life as fate. Fate is what happens to me. What genes did I inherit? Where was I born? How was I educated? But you don't have to look at life only in terms of fate, what life throws at you. You can also look at life as destiny, life as a calling to do something, to leave your footsteps, your imprint, your soul's imprint on this world. And that's a central idea in Torah, in Jewish spirituality, and in the human condition writ large. That's why one of the greatest philosophers of the 20th century, French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, said in his lecture, Existentialism is a Humanism, that existence precedes essence. Our physical, biological existence, once we're born, comes first, and the essence, the content of our lives comes later. It's what we choose. We are the architects and the authors of our life story. That's the idea of a calling. If you look at the Holy Torah in the Bible, then you see that some of the greatest heroes of the Bible had a very, very difficult life. King David buried his son. Jacob, after whom were named as a people Israel, ran for his life from his brother, was cheated in business by his uncle, buried his wife at a young age, his daughter Dinah was viciously and cruelly violated, and for 17 years he thought his beloved and cherished son Joseph is dead. That's why when Jacob finally gets to Egypt and meets the Pharaoh, he tells him, Me'at v'ra'im hayu yemei chayai. Few and bad were the days of my life. But Jacob persevered because he had faith, because he had a sense that his life is not about what happens to him, but about what he gives and what he does. He had a calling. He had a vocation. He embraced a destiny. And finally, the greatest Jewish leader in history, Moses. His heart was shattered. The Almighty told him, you will not make it into Israel. But he kept on leading with soulfulness vigor and faithfulness until his dying hour, because he had a calling. That's what philosopher Nietzsche had in mind when he taught us that anyone who has a why to live, will overcome any how. Take, for example, the late Sylvia Capone, who lived to be 95. She was a Holocaust survivor in our community. She lost 3 children. She survived the Holocaust. She was full of light and she was full of life, because she understood that life is about what God told Abraham. Ve'hyeh bracha, be a blessing to others. Look at the Renaissance, the resurrection of religious Judaism. Ultra-Orthodoxy did not exist in America before the Holocaust. People thought that world perished forever, but it came back, and it's much bigger now in Israel and America, around the world, because these people who belong to that stream of Judaism emanate a calling, a vocation, a destiny, a purpose. One of the most important books published in Hebrew modern literature in the 20th century is called My Michael, by the late novelist Amos Oz, who once stood at this very pulpit here at Sephardic Temple. And in that novel, the woman, the heroine Hannah, asked her husband, Michael, what do you live for? And you know what her husband says in the novel? Most people don't live for something, they live, period. But that's a mistake. That's living on a lower flame, and that's not tapping into our full potential. That's living by way of sheer biological inertia, rather than living life as poetry, rather than living in beauty and sanctity. The Bible teaches us, the Torah teaches us, man does not live by bread alone. And that's true. My sister could live on sushi and salad. Just kidding, I don't have a sister. But the Bible is right when it teaches us that human beings don't live by bread alone. We're not only what Karl Marx called homo faber, an economic producing animal. We're much more than that, teaches us Dr. Viktor Frankl, who founded logotherapy, a psychological school in the modern science of psychology after he survived Auschwitz. His wife and his parents did not. He found meaning, he found a calling in teaching humanity about what happened to him. And so Dr. Frankl is telling us that if you really want to understand what life is about, he says, we sapiens are the meaning-seeking animal. If we have meaning, if we have a calling, even if we went through the hell of genocide, we will say a resounding yes to life. And if we don't have meaning, and life is reduced to fleeting, ephemeral pleasures or how other people perceive me, then one could live in a $20 million mansion and still be utterly unhappy and lead a life of chronic discontent and, God forbid, depression. Happiness, teaches us Protestant theologian Soren Kierkegaard, is a door which opens outward towards others, fellow human beings, fellow Jews, and God Almighty. What is your calling? What is your vocation? What is your destiny? Take this time during this unprecedented global health crisis in the history of human civilization and ask yourself, what is my calling? How do I fully tap into my potential and live a life of vigor and greatness and nobility of purpose? The quality of our lives, the content of our lives, the very essence of our lives depends on the answer to this question. What is my calling? What is your calling? Shabbat Shalom from Sephardic Temple on Thursday,